So,
We have four.
Bill, yes, there. Janice, yes. Holly, just have to say you're present. And I don't see anybody else in the room?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, that is a quorum. So, did everybody get a chance to take a look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Any
Well,
changes,
I did.
discussion?
I don't know if everybody did. I did.
No changes.
No changes. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, so I will say aye. Bill,
Aye.
Janice,
Aye.
Holly,
Aye.
okay. So that's pretty good. We managed to go over the minutes. I'll just I guess the next item on our agenda is the fire station proposal. And we have plenty of time. We did circulate the report that Bill put together, and we presented that to Fred and Mert. Bill, do you want to go over what we did?
Well, sure. I mean, we wrote this document in advance, thinking we would go to Mert and Fred first, and that's as it was written. If you read it, you'll notice. And we decided that was probably the wrong order of events. So we went to Fred and Mert and we talked them through this. Fred and they both had a couple of requests. One of them that there be a service contract built into.
So, Bill, do you
Yes.
want to just summarize, maybe do a broad overview of what's in the report?
Okay, sure.
There's at least one
Really
guest.
simply, the idea is a twin heating system. We keep the furnace that's currently there. We add in heat pumps. The heat pumps are designed to cover the normal heating requirement for the building all by themselves. But the furnace will stay for a multitude of reasons. The primary ones being rapid recovery of heat when there is a drop in the building, and backup should there be any malfunction of the heating system that's there currently. And one of the advantages is that this will prolong the life of the existing furnace. And everyone's at ease with that combined approach. They also asked, Fred Mert also asked that there be these are details we don't need to cover tonight, but that there be a redistribution of heat. Instead of having all of the heat pumps on the west wall blowing across the whole width of the building, they wanted some heat, particularly Fred wanted some heat directed more approximately to the ambulances. And so we talked with each of the contractors, and there's no problem doing that. So the bottom line is we have their approval to proceed, and our job tonight is simply to decide which of the contractors we engage to do the work, and then we've got to get going on it quickly because we have the clock ticking to get that application done. Is that enough information?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just say, I thought the meeting went very well. I was just a fly on the wall on Zoom, but I thought it went very well. I wasn't sure how they would do with the charts and all that, but they appreciated it.
Yep.
So very
Yep.
nicely done, Bill.
Well, we had
Yeah,
given
Bill-
them the charts in advance, and so. Yeah.
Bill did a great job of presenting them with the information and all the sort of statistics he gathered about use of oil and at and electricity at all of our all the town buildings, and kind of the reasoning, kind of the history, and pointing out that, a couple of years ago, I think they were confused because a couple of years ago, the committee members said, oh, fire station doesn't use as much oil, we don't need to. It was sort of low down on the priority list, and the town office, the library were much higher on the priority list, but the town office is done, the library is in progress, so the fire station then became the next item of business. We also talked with them about one of the proposals that came up after the energy audit was done, and was instead of trying to um, better insulate the generator room, which is a major source of heat loss, but actually move the generator outside. And they are in favor of that idea. So we also talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna bring that up simply because there's no deadline on that. We're not gonna
Right.
do that immediately, but that was part of the conversation. Harriet's exactly right. And Fred and Mert were both positive about that. We now need to think about how to make that happen. But in terms of timing, what requires our immediate focus is getting the application into Efficiency Maine for the rebates. And we have a little over 2 weeks to do that. You probably noticed, I've already spoken to Satchel Tool about this. He knows it's coming and he's prepared to move it as expeditiously as he's able to. There's a limit to what he can do, but he's alert to this and will help us. So it's just a question of who does the work. And so my question to you is, do you have any suggestions? I have in mind, but I don't want to prejudice your thinking by what I am doing.
Well, didn't A1 Heat put one heat pump in for this end of the building and also, Revision Energy or Efficient or?
Revision Energy, I know about. I don't know whom you engaged to put the heat pump in upstairs. I never saw any of the
I
paperwork.
think that was A1.
I don't even know who they are,
That's-
so they weren't among the three that I reached out to.
Okay, I think that was Steve Winchenbach, but I'm not sure he's still doing it on the island. I haven't seen him recently.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Janice.
he does still work on the island, but his business, I think it's All Heat.
Oh, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
So the three contractors you saw listed here, Revision, Solar Logics, and Mark Ogden,
okay.
who's bidding on the work in the library. I believe it is he who we said will
We
do the
decided to move
work.
forward with, yeah.
Yeah, so those are the three. Do you understand the bids? Did you see them?
I didn't see the bids,
They were part of this.
just read it right here.
So basically, Revision is proposed, so I'll go through the bids really quickly for you, summarize. Revision is proposing two 18K units, which will cover only about 60 to 75% of the heating demand, depending upon the outside temperature, okay? I mean, I don't think we need the details, but if it goes below zero, it's 60%. If it's about, 60 to 70%. The reason for that is because the service in the building is 100 amp service, and if we put any more in there, we're gonna have to pop up the service to a 200 amp, and that's gonna come with an additional cost. He could put a third unit in, so that would be 3 times 18. But there would be an additional cost over the 14,500 or whatever it is in there for his bid, okay? So the next bid was from Mark Ogden, and he proposed putting in, next in terms of the number of units, he proposed putting in 3 24K units for, I think, 6,382 or something like that a piece. So that would come out to somewhere in the neighborhood of $19,000. 18 and change. Each of those would require its own electrical upgrading, and so the electrical requirements are built into those quotes. The next bid was from Solar Logics, which was for 4 18K units all these are set along the west wall by the original quote, okay? And the total for that plus the electrical upgrade would be in the neighborhood of $30,000, but he wrote in the Efficiency Maine plus Nature Conservancy rebate that brings it down to about $20,000. So the full range of bids goes from 14,000 for 2 units to 20,000 for 4 units. And the 2 units don't cover the need, but the other 2 bids cover the need completely based upon their calculations, using the square footage of the building.
Yeah.
Is that clear? Does everybody
Yep.
understand?
So who decides which bid we accept?
We do.
We do. So
We
Bill,
make-
Just to be clear, the bill, the one from Solar Logics does include the cost, the electrical cost?
Yes, that's the total cost,
Yeah,
Okay,
it's total cost. And,
so that's
okay,
one reason it's significantly higher is because of the cost of the electrical work, which was not included in the other.
right, they're gonna have to pull a line from over here to go over there to bring the service up to 200 amps. Because the wire that's running from here to there now is not adequate for a 200 amp service. So,
and you said Mark Ogden doesn't have all his figures in here, so you're not sure what the
yeah, I
full
mean,
cost is gonna be.
Mark strikes me as very capable,
Mhm.
but he is not elaborate in his description. I gave you the full quote
Yeah.
of his quote. Okay, that's what we've got to work with.
Yeah,
Um, your reactions before I give you mine.
Well, was there another one of the companies that included the electric upgrade? I thought you said the third one you.
Mark Ogden's quote included electrical work. It wasn't, he doesn't specify what that work's going to be, but he's aware, perfectly aware of the 100 amp limit in that building. So whatever he feels he needs to do is encompassed within the quote he gave us for about 18,000.
Well,
But
after
I thought you said that that didn't include the,
Wait, am I mistaken? Hold on.
no, it says not for the full cost.
Not full cost, less electrical feeds to each unit. Okay, so I'm wrong. I misstated that.
Yeah,
So we would then have an additional work for the cost for the electrical work, and I don't know what that would be.
it seems like the two, Solar Logic and Mark, are about the same, because there's only a difference of $1,400 roughly between them, and Mark's isn't complete, it could end up being more.
We don't know what he's going to do, and we have no idea of his comfort level working with. Okay, so now I'm getting into my comment. Okay,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, my gut feeling is, I know Solar Logic has done lots of projects on the mainland. I'm familiar with, they did a big project at Bartlett Woods in Rockland. It's a retirement community. So they've, they're used to doing big projects. This is small beans compared to what they usually do. But the 4 units seem to be more flexible for what Fred wants. And if they're 4 smaller units, it might be possible to put them in the middle like Fred wants. Is that what
Did
you're
you see
thinking?
the follow-up email that I sent? I followed up with with Fred's and Mert's request. I went to all 3 contractors and I sent an email out for their response, including their responses. And all of them said it was doable. I guess the simple statement is Kurt's response was the most flexible and the most complete.
And which one is Kurt?
Solar Logics, Kurt Penny, Solar Logics.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Solar Logics is what I'm leaning
Yeah.
to.
Me too.
And there's another reason we're under it. I liked working with Mark Ogden. He was easy to talk to. He was understandable and he understood me. He understood things quickly and easily. But dealing with him by email and text was a challenge. It was like pulling teeth to get a full answer over email and text. And my concern is that if we're in a hurry, it's going to be a challenge to get all this orchestrated. Whereas Kurt Penny, they did the installation here and they were right on top of the process of submitting the grant. And I know, or the application for rebates. And I know from Satchel, I mean, he can't say, I recommend this person or that person, but he made it clear that they've worked with Solar Logics on a number of occasions and that they know the ropes and they're easy to work with. So I think, given the time and the flexibility, that they're our best choice.
Yeah.
And just on a side thing, if, the federal government doesn't fall apart and we get the OSED grant, we need to have a relationship with somebody who can do solar and they do solar too. So I think it behooves us to develop a relationship with a company that's got stuff they can help us with in the future.
Yeah.
Wait, can I make a comment based on after you?
Sure.
Bill?
Sure.
Okay, so I didn't see a kind of comparison that included the municipal rebates for Ogden. And it
No.
looked like,
Because
it
he did
looked
not
like,
give it.
well, that's because, he's expecting us to include them based on the municipal FON. So if we include those, his bid is quite a bit lower than Solar Logic's.
We don't know that because we don't know what the electrical work is going to cost. He gave no insight to what the electrical work would cost.
Well,
Like-
he's doing that same process for the library now, and he's
Mhm.
going to be submitting to the, municipal FON with Satchel. So it seems like we could figure out what those costs would be and, submit them at the same time. And he communicates well enough through phone. So, it's just a process of working it out.
Jessica, like, how much are you talking about?
I don't know because I don't have the numbers
Well,
in front of me, but
Solar
That's
Logics,
the problem.
yeah, Solar Logics had $11,000 was their estimate for the rebates.
Yes. It's listed here.
Yeah.
so that would be the same.
He also brought up the Nature Conservancy rebate that no one else has mentioned.
That's still included in the municipal FON. That's just a part of the municipal FON if it's still available. There's, it might not be still available. We just have to ask Satchel when we apply.
I don't know, Kreska, I am concerned about how easy it's gonna be to communicate with this person if we're like getting down to the wire here.
Well, we have to be in contact with him for the library. So we're in contact with him.
I have another proposal. Mark, in the course of doing the work over here, Mark talked about the fact that we mentioned the generator issue. And he says, I install generators. So what I was going to propose, I didn't want to murky the waters about this tonight, but what I was going to propose is that we talk to him about the recommendations for and help with the replacement of the generator.
Now, which one's Mark?
Mark Ogden is the one whom
Okay.
she's talking about. So that's it. I mean, that's what we have to work with.
Okay, and also we're going to have the solar RFP for the health center soon. So, and we're also doing the solar with Solar Logics for the library. So we are developing that partnership, hopefully both with the health center and the library for solar installations with Solar Logics.
And Kurt was aware of that, and he spoke to the possibility of getting better pricing because of the cooperative work, but he didn't write that into his proposal.
Yeah.
Well, we need a pro and con discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it looks like, yeah, with the rebates, even if Mark Ogden's electrical is like $10,000, it'll still be, wait, let me see. We just need the actual math done here. If we take the same rebates as Solar Logics, it'll be about $7,000 for just the heat pumps. So if you add on, 5,000 or so at least for electrical, it's still going to be 6,000 less than Solar Logics. And that's kind of the difference of, one heat pump, or I don't know whether it's one small heat pump or one
Yeah.
large heat. Anyway, we need a, breakdown or rundown of what the prices would actually be and what we can
Yeah.
accomplish.
For that,
With Mark.
he didn't give it to me. We have what he gave us,
yeah,
and that's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I'm a little concerned about Mark Ogden that he's been, since we told him we wanted to move ahead on the library project, he's been kind of slow to finalize the proposal and get that moving. I'm a little concerned about that.
Well, somebody needs to call him. I mean,
Yeah.
it needs to be through
Well,
phone, which is why I can't do it.
Well, I emailed him. Well, Melissa's on vacation this week, and I emailed him today for an update. I haven't heard back from him yet, so I
Yeah.
guess I'll call him
Doing this
tomorrow.
for 2
If
weeks.
I have I'll check that I have the phone number. I'll call him tomorrow if I haven't heard from him.
And what I've communicated to you is the totality of what he has communicated to us.
Yeah,
Whereas Revision and Solar Logics came through with more complete quotes. Sorry.
the other now, Bill. What about the other piece that Fred was very really wanted was to have a service contract. Now I know
Yeah. What
Solar
Mark-
Logic said fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mark said that we have all the parts and we come to the island frequently. I mean, that is basically what he said. But he said we don't do service contracts. And Revision said the same thing. We're not heating installers. We just, we will come when we can. So that put Revision at a low level for me. And it didn't fly with what Mark, with what Fred and Mert wanted. Whereas Solar Logic said, we do service contracts all the time. We can be on the island the next day. And that's what Fred, that was the pivot point for getting Fred's agreement.
Yeah.
Okay,
Plus-
so it looks like, I would like to know why Solar Logic's bid for the library is so high. If they're just using multi-split heat pumps instead of these single unit heat pumps. And
Are you,
you know,
did you mean to say for the library or did you mean to say
yes,
for the fire
because
station?
they're using multi-split there.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the fire station, about the
Well,
library.
what I'm trying to do is compare so that we can understand whether or not we should pursue a package with Solar Logics at this point or with Mark Ogden.
I understand what you're trying to do. What I'm telling you is this has been done in 3.5 weeks and we have 2 weeks left. And
Yeah.
I'm not interested in jeopardizing the application for vague possibilities.
Right.
But
They
we're at the
don't-
same place with both Solar Logics on both projects, the library and the fire station, and we're in the same place with Mark Ogden for both projects right
I'm not
now.
impressed with the pace of
Either we
work.
pushed on one or push on the other.
Well, I mean, one question is, I mean, we don't have to use the same vendor for both projects. It
Of course,
might,
but I'm
as
just
you-
saying
as
we
you-
could try to push.
Yeah.
We need to push on somebody.
Yeah,
Well,
And Solar Logics is too high for the library.
yeah,
So we need to
Yeah.
push on them if we're going to go, get that to be aligned for the library, because that means we're giving up on Mark Ogden. Or
Well, again, they
we
don't
push
have-
on Mark Ogden for both and he might come up with a better price for both.
right. Again, we don't have to have the same contractor for both projects.
Yeah, but
It's-
right now we're stuck with Mark Ogden. We need to move forward with him so we can at least try.
well,
get more-
how does this impede your moving forward with him at all? This is a separate installation. It's got nothing to do with the process you're developing at the library.
Sort of. They can be
No.
coordinated.
They could be coordinated, that can be worked out afterwards. Now what we have to do is get the applications in enough time to get the rebates. That's what's pushing us forward now.
I'm well aware.
So let's say the rebates are the same. So I didn't do the math up there, but so that means that the Ogden one is, I can't do that in my head, this is embarrassing.
It's like
It's like,
14,480, I think.
no,
I mean,
it'd be less than that.
1480 total, I think. If
Well-
you subtract the one from the other.
Well, the rebates are 11,000, so that would make that one,
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Seven.
that
17.
was close to $8,000, but we don't know what the extra electrical work would be.
Right.
So the electrical work, work is anywhere from 5 to 10,000. They're not that far apart.
That's really the point. They're not that far apart. And
And I think the 4 units would work better in there than the 3 units.
not only that, I think they would, because he was quite willing to move 2 of the units over to the inner wall and blow down on the ambulance. And he said that would be a minor increase in the cost. But more than that, if we decided that we didn't want to go with the full quote, we could just put 3 of them in and put
Right.
2 on the west wall and 1 on the east wall. So we have that flexibility.
And Fred really was adamant about needing a service contract to feel comfortable with this. I mean,
Yes.
that was like his
Right.
Fisher cut bait.
Yeah.
Let me reiterate what I was saying before.
Hmm.
Harriet,
Yeah,
if you could coordinate to take another look with Solar Logics at the library project, because Solar Logics is coming in so low on this fire station project with single unit heat pumps,
yeah,
like maybe that is a direction to go, because Steve's quote for single unit heat pumps was way too high. But Solar Logics is proposing 4 heat pump units for only like $10,000 more than we were going to pay for the multi-head units in the library. I'm just saying it would be nice to have somebody who'd be willing to coordinate this and come up with options on both sides so that we can make sure we get these applications into
Right.
efficiency main on time. And I'm sorry I can't help on the phone and in,
Yeah.
during regular business hours anymore, but somebody needs to,
well,
push this
I
forward.
could certainly call
Touch
him.
with Kurt repeatedly,
Go ahead.
and every time I write to him, I get a quick response. He has responded to every request I've made within 24 hours.
So Chris,
Yeah,
All right,
but
what
his
talking about?
quote was so high for the library that it's not even, possible to entertain.
I have not had the library on my radar at all. I don't know anything about the library. Tonight
Well,
is
I'm
about.
telling you.
so wait a
That's
minute, just stop for a second. So I'm trying to understand here, because I thought you started out wanting Ogden and now you're saying, are you saying, Cressica, that what we would be advised to do would be to contact Solar Logic and say, can you give us a better option for the library since you came in so reasonable for the fire station? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
can do that right after the meeting tonight. If that's what
Okay.
you want, I can get you an
But-
answer.
It
That's
needs to
not
be
what I've
like
been working-
less than $15,000 for the library to be competitive with Ogden. But also I would like to ask Harriet to continue to push forward with Ogden.
yeah. Okay, so let's just step back for a moment and say we can take a vote on, I think we agree that these Ogden's a little bit less, but we're not sure because the electrical piece of it. And then there's the service contract, which is something they really wanted. So do we have, and then if we vote to accept Solar Logics for this one, I can then call them and say, look, or Bill can, one of us can, and say, look, would you be able to come in with a lower quote for the library? Because that was significantly higher than the other quotes, whereas this one was more in line with what we're getting from other people. So do we have a motion here?
So I moved.
I just
we-
want to, sorry,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Janice.
No, go ahead. No, you, Cressica, you go first.
I just want to establish what the cost difference might be for Solar Logics versus Ogden so that we have it on record, like how much we are, increasing the budget in order to go with Solar Logics.
If we had 2 months, I would be happy to do that. We don't have 2 months. I want to move forward.
So
What's the problem?
I see, can I say something? I see a couple of things going on here. First, we've got the break point for Mert and Fred's support, and that's the service contract. And then below that, it sounds to me like the problem with Solar Logic is something I wasn't aware of, that they came in so high on the library that it's just not doable. And
Right,
it sounds like we need to follow through with them and say, okay, if you get the contract for the public safety building, is there something you can do with the cost on the library, like a kind of a group or a package? And then the other issue with Ogden is that the only way to communicate with him is by phone. And that means we're not getting anything in writing either. So he hasn't given us a complete set of the cost based
Right.
on what our criteria is. So that's kind of making him a little suspect. But because he came in with such a good quote on the library, you're willing to not look at that, but he still doesn't have the service contract that Fred and Mert
Right.
want.
Wait, okay, number one, he has done good work in other towns and they attest to it. Number two, he did give us the library quote in writing.
Okay.
And number three, I didn't hear like what his position was on the service contract.
They
So
don't do, they do service,
they don't
but
do
they don't do
service?
service contracts. They do service,
Okay.
but they don't do service
Okay, they do
contracts.
service. Okay.
Yes,
Precise wording
lots of
is
people
in what
can do
I
service
sent out
contract.
in email. If you read it, you will hear exactly what he said about it.
Mhm.
I read the whole thing.
Well, that's what he said about it.
Okay. So we need to kind of move ahead here. So Janice, you were going to make a motion?
Right, I mean, I realize we don't have a final cost for the one from Ogden, but given that the Solar Logics meets several of our criteria, I move that we go with Solar Logics.
I second.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, so I'll start with the people in the room. So, Janice,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Holly,
I'm thinking yes, but with a caveat.
okay,
Well,
You
you
need the
could,
caveat?
you can amend the motion.
Yeah, I'd like to amend the motion. If, we vote to accept Solar Logic today, if somebody contacts them and Ogden tomorrow and gets the information we need that changes these figures, can we change our vote?
where do we word
Probably
that?
not. Probably not. We
We
can,
prob-
we can vote via email.
We
if
can
we
reconvene,
decide.
yeah.
By email.
You can't, yeah, you can't.
I thought
Well,
We can do it
technically,
then.
do we need to vote on this because we've already allocated the funding? we don't.
Actually, that's complicated. We have some funding. It's not actually allocated to the fire station heat pumps. I did have a discussion with, I at least talked to Melissa Burns, and she said, you know, given the time frame, if we went ahead and we have put money into our request for next year's budget, and we were thinking we would shift money around to use this year's budget money to get this started, and then save some money in next year's budget.
Yeah, so it's all allocated to heat pumps, and we would have accomplished the library heat pump project under budget, well
Right,
under budget,
exactly.
to the point where we could also
Right.
fund the
Right,
fire station heat pumps with that same money
yeah.
at this point, with our current understanding.
So anyways,
Can
go
I-
ahead, Janice.
I'd like to, can I amend my motion?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm getting really confused on Robert's rules about what we have to.
Yeah,
You're supposed to vote on the amendment and then the amendment to the, anyway. Yeah.
So I would like to amend my motion to say we choose Solar Logics unless we get new information overnight that makes Ogden cheaper by several $1,000s, in which case we will have to have an emergency meeting to revote.
what about the service contract?
Right, that is really, I mean, Fred was so adamant about that, and he
Yeah,
was so
he
excited
was.
by the idea of the whole thing with the service contract, that I think it would be a
A deal
fly
breaker?
in the ointment if we didn't go with
That's
I mean,
right.
if,
Okay, so let's reword that. We have an amendment to go with Solar Logics unless we get additional information about the proposals, competing proposals that require the committee to reconvene, whether that's by Zoom or by email. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You need a second?
well, we have to have a time.
I'm not
limit.
happy about this. This means, I mean, this is a discussion, right, about the amendment? I'm not
Yeah.
happy about this because that means I have to run. I've been doing this full time for the past 3 weeks since the last meeting. And this is what we have as a result of that effort. That means I have to go to Mark Ogden and get him to give me a complete statement of what this is going to cost. And then we have to get back together again and talk about it. And then we've got to get the paper. If we give it to him, we've got to get him to do the paperwork and get it in on time. We have no track record with him. Solar Logics knows how to do this and they do it quickly. So from my standpoint, I'm willing to pay the money in order to be guaranteed that we get the discount that they know how to get. That's my perspective.
So from your point of view, you would vote no for the amendment, which.
I would vote no for the amendment, yes.
That's
Yeah.
I
Um,
also
just-
think it needs to be conditional on confirming that we get the $2,800 rebate per unit. We just don't have enough information to know if it's a reasonable budget or not.
What do you mean, Jessica?
Have we confirmed with Satchel that the $2,800 per unit rebate is still available?
Okay, I did not ask the question, is $2,800 correct? I asked him whether the normal program whether the program has the funding that we anticipate could be used. And he said, yes, there's no likelihood that the money will disappear. The only deadline is the end of the month when the program ceases to accept applications. So I have not asked the specific question you articulated, but the general answer is yes, we can get the money.
Because there's a big difference. There's going to be a $4,000 difference if the Nature Conservancy, hasn't, that if the Nature Conservancy rebate isn't available yet anymore. So I'm just
I
saying
did
we should
not
take
ask
into
about the Nature
consideration
Conservancy
in the
rebate.
overall budget.
Well, that'll be a problem for both.
That'll be a problem for everybody.
So,
Yeah, but it's a step change. It would be a $3,000 problem for Ogden and a
Well, it's gonna
$4,000
be-
problem for.
but that will be the same on whichever one we choose, that would apply.
Yeah, but it makes the budget that much bigger and it might not, be covered by what we have now. Or, it just puts us over the edge into a larger budget. I'm just noting that we don't have all the information there.
Right.
Well, Bill, when you talk, I don't know who Satchel is. Who the heck is Satchel?
Satchel is the representative that we have been dealing with for the past 3 years through Efficiency Maine.
So he was the one that mentioned the Nature Conservancy.
No, it was Kurt Penny of Solar Logics who put it into his quote. It's written into his quote. We've never used the Nature Conservancy rebate before. We've always used just the straight rebate from the municipal upgrade.
And that would go through Efficiency Maine indirectly, or would it go through Nature Conservancy?
I don't know how that works. We've never done that before.
It's written into the municipal funding opportunity notice from Efficiency Maine. There's something like 100 units allowed through to get this additional $1,000. So it's all through Efficiency Maine.
Okay. So let's back up. We have a motion to accept the Solar Logics. Now, I think rather than putting a conditional amendment on it, I think one can always come back. No matter what we pass, there's always an option if information changes or new information becomes available, or there's some other change, then we can come back to the committee regardless of. So I don't think we have to put an amendment on it, but.
Well, the problem is I already moved it, so we just have to vote it down. Okay, that's all.
Okay. So,
Or I can withdraw it. Okay, I'll withdraw it.
okay. So now we have the motion to accept Solar Logics. as written. We have a second. So we had Janet voted yes. Should we start over? Let's start over with that. Janice,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes,
Holly,
Yes,
Jessica.
Yes, but I want to register that we should have had all the information in terms of a full estimate.
Yeah, well, Bill did the best he could, given the time constraints. And I will vote yes. So now we've gone through, we've spent a lot of time on that, just going through the quick budget update. We did give the town some revised budget numbers, which I did circulate to everybody. And main thing is that the main difference was that we took out the ventilation system request because, after considerable conversation, that's clearly a separate project. It wouldn't connect with the heat pumps at all. And Bill did have some discussion with the contractors that he met with about that possibility, but we thought it was outside the purview of this committee. So we took that out of our request for the budget.
Harriet, may
Yeah.
I make a comment? I was amazed that it wasn't more expensive than it was. When I talked to Solar Logics about this, they said we could do that for $9,700 or $9,500, something like that. And I asked if it would be less if they were to do the jobs at the same time, the heating and the ventilation system at the same time. He said yes. I don't know how much, but yes. The thing is, though, that's not under time pressure, and so we could always
Right.
come back and navigate those waters after we move forward with the heat pump.
Correct. So as far as other additional updates, we already mentioned the library. And again, we had selected Mark Ogden as the contractor for that, and we're trying to get that nailed down. Do you have anything else to add, Jessica?
I'm not, yeah, I don't have any
Okay.
knowledge of that.
I'll try to, if he doesn't answer my email, I will try to call him tomorrow. I hope I have his phone number. I'll check on that. Anything on the municipal building and the EV chargers? It's kind of,
I don't know,
No.
somebody needs to take on the EV chargers, like I mentioned in the email to
is
you.
there more than one?
There can be, we wrote the grant for 2 EV chargers to be installed at that same post that's already installed.
And that's the one on the other side of the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't picked any, but the contractor should know who's installing them, correct?
We don't have a contractor to install them. We could approach Allphase to give us a quote. Their quote that they originally proposed was really high.
who was that?
So Allphase, the electricians for the health center who are
Oh,
currently
I see.
Well, we could do
their quote was kind of not reasonable for EV chargers. And we also need to consider which vendor to use for the EV chargers because the Grizzly, I think I wrote this in the email, in an email to Harriet as well. We
Yeah.
can't use the Grizzly. We cannot reuse that.
Oh, yeah, you did
charger
say
unit.
that, yeah. So Holly, are you interested in working on that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, is there a problem with me going to other electricians and talking to them about it?
No, it's,
Okay.
I think the installation itself is very straightforward. We just have to be very aware of what amperage they're deciding to put in because the health, we just don't know how much load the health center is going to draw. And it might be a border between very expensive, higher level service and the whatever it's called, small general service versus medium general service. So we just have to like pay attention and ask them about what the options are for amperage. And we have to like, okay, fundamentally, it would be nice to wait until the the health center is operational so that we know how much electricity it's using. So we know how much amperage we can put on the EV chargers. But
Okay.
I don't know if that's possible or not. You might need to talk to the teams involved in order to find out what's most reasonable for when we install it. I know that they're really worried that the federal funding is going to be seized. So they're trying
way
to
to
put
solve that
everything
problem
through
is-
as quickly as possible.
The way to solve that problem is to put in the gauge wire required for the higher demand, and if you don't need it, then you spend a little extra cost for the wire. But at least you've got it in the future if you want to upgrade.
Okay, and
Yeah,
that's
we can
something,
always change the amperage later.
okay. And that,
Okay.
I mean, we could really break it down into somebody just installing that. And then later on, installing the actual meters and everything.
Absolutely, but.
No, we should do it all together because we need to use the idea of installing it is to use the federal grant sooner
Okay.
rather than later. So,
Okay.
and then decide on the amperage later. That's fine.
Okay,
I thought you were speaking about the wire, and you want
Yeah.
to put the wire in now.
Yeah.
The higher gauge wire now.
yep,
Okay, we don't need to, we can put
okay,
off,
got
okay. We could put off talking about the community event till next time. The grant application, we submitted the concept paper for the OCE grant. We have no idea what the future of that funding is, but it's still listed as an open opportunity on the website. And I don't know when we would hear from it. If they give us, we can submit a final full application, whether they give us the go-ahead or not, but based on the concept paper, we might get a, yes, please go ahead and proceed with the full application, or no, this probably isn't going to fly. And I don't know what the time frame is for us to hear about that. And new business, I had two other things. Bill has attended I think, did I circulate Bill's?
I sent it out.
You sent it out, okay. The Waldo County Climate Action Committee, Bill's been attending the meetings. And there were a couple of things that you mentioned. One was that they are looking to create a more formal structure that might involve dues, and we don't know what that would amount to and whether that's something we want to participate in. And the other thing you mentioned, they were having an event on June 1st.
Two
I think.
events. Two events.
Two events,
Earth Day and then Resilience Festival. Earth
Mhm.
Day, the 22nd of April, and the festival is, I think, it's early in June. And they would be happy to have input, ideas, and they would be happy to have warm bodies to help. And the only question to us is, to what extent do we want to be involved? That's all. They are not imposing anything on us. But if we choose to participate, they would be happy to have our participation. So that's open to the committee. And they have not requested any dues of us. We're there in a very informal way. And so the only reason we would even have to consider paying dues is if we wanted to formalize our participation with them. And that's entirely up to us as well. They're happy to host us just as visitors at this point. I don't think we have to talk about that tonight.
Okay, just that's more of an information. The other thing is, I think people saw the email, Dick DeGrasse formally resigned from the committee. He said it verbally at the end of the last meeting, but he did send an email out saying that he was resigning. So we now have two openings. We have one person who has expressed interest, and I've held off on taking action because I had heard that there were some other people that were interested, but I haven't gotten any confirmation of that. So I would just say that maybe by the next meeting, we could try to find out I know some of you had mentioned people you thought might be interested to pull together the people who are interested and then move ahead with nominating new members. And so that's all there really is to say about that. Anything else? Any other business? Janice?
Under old business?
Yeah.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
I got an email yesterday from Lisa Millette from the Island Institute that Islesboro's application for the fellow has been accepted.
Oh, perfect.
So the fellow will arrive September 5th, and I tried sending this to people, but the Gmail wouldn't let me forward this.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
So from mid-April to the end of April, there's interviews with the fellows. Early May, the MOUs are signed. June, there's a housing search, but we already have housing. Christine Robb has an apartment that they used with the previous fellow, and she meets all the criteria. Late July into August, Candace Provey and I will do the advisor training sessions. In August, our 7,500 invoice is due, and then in September, the fellows arrive. So I tried to email, you see, you have to rewrite everything.
That would be great, yeah.
So who does the interviewing?
Well, anybody from the committee can. Candace Provey and I, as the advisors, will definitely be there, but if anybody else wants to, I would welcome it. And then there's Island Institute people there, but if anybody from this group would like to participate, that would be great.
Okay.
So you just have to make up your mind by the middle of April.
Okay. Okay, so our next meeting will be April 8th.
I might have more news by then.
That'd be great. We have a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, so Janice, vote to adjourn.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Bill,
Yes.
Holly,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
me, yes. Okay, so we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.
What is your right email? Is it Secretary Town of Islesboro?
Yes.
Mm.
Thank you